One of the fascinating things about looking at a newspaper is that you get a sense of what's happening in the community.
After slaves were emancipated in the United States, the Colored Tennessean was published as Nashville's only newspaper by African Americans for African Americans. It was part of a wave of newspapers in the South that catered to the energy, need for communication, and for connection among former slaves.
There are several notices about schools. So you see that schools were important. And of course, you have Fisk being established in 1866. So right after the war, people are putting schools in place all over the South and certainly in Nashville as well.
Heather Andrea Williams is a history professor and author who has reviewed newspapers printed during Reconstruction.
There's one ad for a man who was a shoemaker. He wanted to inform the colored people that it was their duty to patronize people of their color. So they should be doing business with him. These are people who will now be paid for their labor, who will have money to spend.
The black press also focused on the burning desire of freedmen for political rights, voting rights, and having a voice in government. Perhaps most moving were efforts to find and reunite with family members displaced by the cruelties of slavery, forced separation, and the war.
So this was placed in the Colored Tennessean on October 7th, 1865. Information is wanted of my mother, whom I left in Fauquier County, Virginia in 1844, and I was sold in Richmond, Virginia to Samuel Copeland. I formerly belonged to Robert Rogers. I am very anxious to hear from my mother, and any information in relation to her whereabouts will be very thankfully received. My mother's name was Betty and was sold by Colonel Briggs to James French.
Columns of these information wanted ads seeking lost relatives filled newspapers like the Colored Tennessean from 1865, symbolizing the stories of separation, heartbreak, and the often disappointing efforts to reunite with loved ones. To learn more about African American history, tune in to NPT every Tuesday at 7 p.m. throughout November for the African Americans, Many Rivers to Cross.
Major corporate support for the African Americans, Many Rivers to Cross is provided by Bank of America, the Coca-Cola Company, and McDonald's. Support is also provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and PBS.